Hi, beautiful people. I said, hi, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. Every time I say that, I have like this beat in my head. Listen, guys, I'm a lover of music. So every time I say that, and it's the acoustic, everything, I could just hear it in my head. So I'm like, rock it, rock it. How is everyone? How are you all doing? I know you're thinking, who is this weirdo that's on my screen? If you don't know me, my name is Mon-E, and I'm just here sharing lessons from like past mistakes that I've made, my healing journey after divorce, and just kind of, yeah, like how I've ended up in a position where I'm sane, remarried, I have 2 boys. So yeah, just sharing kind of glimpses of past mistakes, even present mistakes, because it's still a work in progress. Can we just acknowledge that we can simultaneously be a work in progress and a masterpiece? Yeah. It's all about iteration. We're going to keep evolving, keep striving to do better. So I'm hoping you've healed and that you've watched my previous videos to like why it's important to heal, and you are aware that like dating is not going to take away any kind of pain that you feel. So you've done your work. Yeah, we're together, right? You've done your work and you're ready to get back out there. Tips, what should you be aware of? I guess that's what I'm going to be sharing in this video. And guys, I don't even feel like an expert. I'm just going to tell you things from my experience. So tip number 1, do not settle. Say it with me. Do not settle. I think one of the things that I was mindful of and I had to address very early on was I felt at some point, to some extent, because I now had divorce, a thing that I viewed as a blemish. I think in many ways I still felt like I was leftovers, if I could say that, damaged goods. These are all of the ways I kind of was still describing myself very early on in my kind of healing journey and dating after divorce. And well, in my head, I might not have been acknowledging it out loud, but definitely within myself, I was like very skeptical, especially in like African Christian circles, like all those intersections. I literally fit into all of those buckets that would be the most judgmental. You know, there are many people, even in Christian circles, that don't believe in dating or marrying divorced women. Let's just acknowledge that these things exist, these mindsets, attitudes exist. So there's many people who wouldn't even date a divorced woman, I feel like even and I don't want to even go into this because that's not the point of this video, but I even feel like the judgment is harsher on a woman. Because we're very much in a patriarchal society, and I'm not going to go into that because I'm not trying to be controversial today for once in my life. I'm trying to stay focused on what you've asked for help with. Monica, stay in the zone, don't do it, don't bite the bait. Yeah, I'm opinionated, but there's a lot of judgment is what I'm saying. And so I felt that in some ways I would have to settle to some extent and relax some of my standards because the other person would be relaxing their standards by dating me, a divorced woman. That mindset, and even now I just even feel the Holy Spirit saying this, is flawed. The fact that you've made mistakes and you've repented for those mistakes, like, does not make you unlovable, does not mean that you should see red flags, see things that you wouldn't ordinarily entertain, drop those standards because you feel like the person is settling with you. That is a lie. That's a lie. do not settle, please. Because what will ultimately happen is you'll end up in exactly the same position that you're trying to avoid with another heartbreak. If you see things that are red flags, if you see things that you're uncomfortable with, don't feel like you have to settle just because you have been through divorce. Don't do it, please. Don't do it. Tip number 2, and it relates to my first tip. Don't hide the fact that you're divorced. I remember having a conversation with my mum. I was going on a date with someone and I told her that I was going on this date. And I remember asking her, how soon is too soon to tell someone that you've been divorced? Like, how soon am I supposed to let them know about my past experiences? Do I wait until like conversations about like, you know, past experiences come up? I remember being so lost and so confused, and I talked this through with my mom. And I think the truth is that it might happen at a different time with different people. But what I would definitely say is that it's really important to be upfront and honest and to own it very early on. I'm not saying that you wear it as a badge of honor, because it's still something that makes me very, very uncomfortable. And it's still something that I really wish didn't end up that way. But I think that in the same way that I'm saying that you shouldn't settle or relax your standards and accept things that, you know, you wouldn't want, is the same way that you should give other people the opportunity to be comfortable with dating someone who's been divorced before. Because the truth is that there may be people that you come across that are not necessarily comfortable dating or ultimately marrying someone who's been divorced. So what you don't want to do is be in a situation where feelings start to develop and all the rest of it, and then this comes out. I think it's really important to give the other person an opportunity to decide how comfortable they are with it and if they want to continue. So the earlier that conversation happens, and that you can say, you know, as part of the conversation, actually, I was married and I've been divorced for X, you know, amount of time. And if kind of there's further question that you're comfortable answering at that point, then do. And then if not, just say, you know, let's get to know each other, and then you'll find those things out. But I do think it's important to be upfront and honest about the fact that you've been previously married. And I know it's tricky, but I think navigating that sooner rather than later is better. Tip number 3, and again, it's related to my previous point. When you do eventually tell the person that you've been previously married, please don't then spend all of that time bashing your ex. I know him or her made mistakes, they've hurt you, they're the enemy, they're whatever word, insert whatever descriptive word you want to use. But I don't think there is a bigger turn off to a person. And if you've been on dates where someone has spoken so negatively about their ex, I want you to take a moment and just think about all the feelings that brought up in you. Because to me, and from my perspective, I would see it that the person is not necessarily over their ex. You know, the thing is, when you've been married to someone, that's a really serious, you know, essentially a lifelong commitment that you were going to make. And so that raises all sorts of questions and insecurities in a person, more so than a kind of like casual boyfriend-girlfriend kind of situation would. So you have to tread carefully. Instead, what I would suggest, and what I did in my case, was speak to the lessons that I learned about myself in that situation. And I spoke to kind of the work that I did in myself, what I realized about myself, what I've put in place, the work that I've done to grow from that. And in acknowledging my mistakes and being able to kind of speak from that place, it just kind of reaffirmed the healing journey that I did. And it brought some sort of assurance to the person that, you know, I was dating at the time. So that's a tip from me. Please don't spend all the time bashing your ex. Make it very much about you, what you've learned. Your ex, whoever it is, has the right to privacy. They don't need to be dragged through the mud. You don't gain anything from doing it. They're probably not even thinking about you at the time. Like, don't kind of lead with your pain or your bitterness or resentment to a person, because that's kind of how it comes across, and it comes across like you actually haven't healed and you're not over the person. My next tip is to learn to extend grace. Grace. Learn to extend grace. The fact of the matter is that when you move on and you start to date again, people are human beings and they are going to make mistakes. And some of those mistakes are going to resemble things that you had previously experienced with your ex. And sometimes that can lead to heightened responses, speaking from experience here. People are going to hurt you and people are going to make mistakes in a relationship. It is not fair for you to be hypersensitive or have a heightened reaction or punish a person for somebody else's mistake. There has to be room for grace if any relationship is going to be successful. And one of the things that I learned through therapy, because this is something I have actively had to work through, both when I dated previously and even in my marriage now, it's something I have to be very intentional about. My therapist told me that my triggers are mine to own. What a person does to us is one thing. How we respond to it is something else entirely. And we can be angry, yet we are called not to sin in that anger. And so anytime I'm triggered, I have to really process why it is that I'm triggered and what the root of that is and where it started from. And I have to address that because I have to recognize that some of my reaction to my spouse or whoever it is that I'm dating in that moment may not entirely belong to them. You know, I have to center myself. I have to get it together and recognize what's causing that, and then address the situation respectfully, healthily, and appropriately. Learn to extend grace in abundance, because, and I'm going to be bringing my husband on here so he can share his experiences of like dating and being married to a woman after divorce, so you can hear it firsthand. And I'm sure he's going to raise things like that, because that's been really real things that we've had to work through. And I've had to work through those types of things with anyone that I've dated. The reality of the situation is that there are going to be experiences and things that resemble past issues, past mistakes, but we don't have the right to disrespect anyone, overreact, to be hypersensitive. We have to be completely in touch with ourselves and where those reactions are coming from, and nip it in the bud when we need to. My next tip, and I've lost count of where I am, maybe like 5, am I? 5? My next tip is to slow your roll. Take a deep breath and take your time. Take your time. One of the things that I know, and I think this is something, men, I'd love to get your viewpoint on this, because I don't see that you guys are as pressured by time. But one of the things that, you know, just from speaking to other women that I've kind of counseled after a divorce, and just from my own experiences, is that one of the things that keeps us stuck is getting over how much time that we feel has been lost or wasted in our past relationship. And particularly for women who still desire marriage after a divorce, who maybe didn't have children in their first marriage, or who still desire to have children, that kind of puts us on some sort of clock, like where we feel like we have to make everything happen. Can you see how my fingers snapping? We have to make everything happen very quickly. And when we rush and we dive headfirst into things, we typically haven't thought it through, and then we make mistakes. Take your time, enjoy dating the person, enjoy getting to know the person, enjoy the process. Don't rush it. Take your time. Be sure of yourself. Be sure it's what you want. Get to know the person. Observe all the things that you need to observe how they are with other people, with their family. Like, there's tips, there's people who could speak to that better than I can. But what I'm saying is don't feel like, because you feel like certain things haven't been achieved yet and there's things that you still desire, like, don't use that as a reason to just rush through the process and then overlook things that you needed to have paid attention to. Take your time, enjoy the process. And finally, be prayerful. And I'm ending there. I could have started there. Like, ultimately, we're in his hands, we're in God's hands. Submit everything, your intentions, your fears, your concerns, your hopes, your dreams. Submit everything to him. Pray about it. Don't stop praying about it. And I believe he will continue to guide your steps. I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy putting yourself out there. Trust me, I understand. Taking that step of faith, worrying that you're going to make a mistake again, feeling like you can't trust yourself, you can't trust your judgment anymore, having other people question your judgment, because that's a real thing too. I know a lot of it creates a lot of doubts, conflict, double-mindedness, anxiety. Remain prayerful. He will guide you and he will lead you in everything. Like, just submit it all to him. That is ultimately the best advice I could give you, and it probably could supersede everything that I've already said, because ultimately, if you submit it to him and you pray and you allow the Holy Spirit to lead you, he will tell you the timing that you should say certain things. He'll give you the wisdom that you need to handle certain situations. He'll give you the grace that you need. Like, all of the things that I've said ultimately is rooted in him. So I hope, like, the conversation's been helpful. There's really nothing kind of complex that I've shared. This is just kind of things that I've learned from my own experience of dating after divorce. And I just really hope that this has blessed you, it's helped you. Give me some feedback in the comments. Like, let me know if there are additional tips that you've had. Like, let's discuss. Until next time, beautiful people, take care of yourself. Bye.